Trailer 2 for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom has blown our collective minds yet again. After watching them countless times, I've put together the ultimate analysis of both trailers, plus details from the official Japanese website. Today, we're gathering as much information as we can, including world map secrets, a look at dungeons, the various gameplay systems, and new characters we might encounter beyond what we've seen in the trailers. So with that out of the way, let's dive right into 50 new Echoes of Wisdom theories and secrets. Trailer 1 showed us this scene inside of a scientist's laboratory featuring two new characters. One bearing quite the resemblance to Robbie, the Sheikah researcher from Breath of the Wild. We also see this blue-haired woman holding a book. We don't meet these characters fully in Trailer 2, but the Japanese website fills us in on both of their identities. Via my translation app, the woman is known as Sadari, Minister of Hyrule, a name that will likely change in the North American localization. The scientist's name is translated to something very similar to the name Robbie and the character's Japanese name. Interestingly, the description text under this Robbie character identifies him as Impa's older brother who researches the rifts appearing across Hyrule. Despite both being Sheikah and being the exact same age according to Breath of the Wild creating a champion, it's never implied that Robbie and Impa are related. This leads us to believe that these are different incarnations of these characters, or at the very least, the Robbie lookalike is a new character that is heavily inspired by him. The lab belonging to this scientist character, who for right now we'll just call Robbie, is filled with books, research papers, and machinery. We know from the translation that he's a researcher of the rifts, but his lab looks to have an ironworking area, suggesting that he has something to do with weapons, just like how Robbie provided Link with the ancient weapons in Breath of the Wild. Perhaps this Robbie specializes in the new Tri-Rod and its potential upgrades. Another theory, which I like slightly better, is that Robbie is the one who creates these metallicized versions of enemies Zelda can use as echoes. For example, this robotic Octorok we see firing wildly in Trailer 1. Maybe by defeating a certain number of one type of enemy, or by collecting the required echoes and materials, Robbie can create more robotic creations for Zelda to add to her arsenal. And maybe he works on them and stores them down in the basement below this hatch in his laboratory. If you have a good eye for detail, you can actually see this hatch opened up in a screenshot from the Japanese website. We saw this older woman character in Trailer 1 for a brief moment taking out some castle guards. Based on her appearance, this character being Impa was a prominent theory, and thanks to the Japanese website, this theory is proved true outright, as the character is explicitly named Impa and is called Zelda's protector. Despite learning about Impa's identity, this scene is still a bit confusing. It seems to take place in the castle dungeon, the same area where we see Zelda in a jail cell and the fairy Tri first appears to her. Is the princess being held hostage in a castle cell, which is why Impa needs to take out these guards? Maybe for Zelda's own protection, the guards don't want her to leave the castle after the king is swallowed by a rift. That would make sense based on how we can spot wanted posters plastered around Hyrule after she escapes, and why she wears a hooded disguise for a lot of the adventure. Yet in Trailer 2, she changes into a traditional princess outfit right in front of these guards, without any reaction from them, so the early story events are all still a bit unclear. From Trailer 1, we understood that the triangle marks floating behind Tri correspond to how many echoes Zelda is allowed to put out at one time. Tri starts with 4 triangles, so 4 echoes is the maximum amount Zelda can have active, barring any upgrades to the ability we haven't seen yet. We also know that some echoes cost more triangles than others. Simple objects like the bed or table cost 1, while the anglerfish cost 2, and the redead cost 3. We can see an echo summoning cost by the triangle marks above the icon in the upper right. We see rifts appearing in many different places across Hyrule, even partially obstructing certain objects, like this house in Castletown. It's possible that these rifts are portals to an alternate dimension that's explorable in some form. Why do we think this? Well, For example, the area in which we see Zelda capturing the water block echo has the same dark purple color scheme that we see inside of the rifts created by Ganon's staff. And at the very end of trailer 2, we can see Zelda safely passing through a rift with the help of Tri. It seems not every rift will be an entrance though, as we can only see a glowing portal at a few select locations, like this one for example, somewhere in Gerudo Desert. Trailer 2 shows a rift swallowing the entirety of Hyrule Castle, and in this clip from the Japanese website, we see Hyrule's king pushing Zelda away from the oncoming rift, falling victim to it himself. Based on Zelda being free here and Link not being present, we can assume this takes place after Link saves Zelda from the crystal in trailer 1. Zelda trapped in a crystal harkens back to a common series trope, since maidens trapped in crystals started all the way back in A Link to the Past, and has since been a recurring theme. Making a point to show Zelda trapped, only for her to break free moments later, is telling of how this new adventure will subvert expectations. If it wasn't already clear, Echoes of Wisdom is breaking series conventions. Aonuma said it himself in the reveal trailer. Even the very premise of rescuing the princess is flipped on its head, and we see more convention-breaking change with the radically new gameplay style we're introduced to later on. It should also be noted that in trailer 1, when Zelda is running away from the newly opening rift, she trips and falls, yet the rift abruptly stops before it can swallow her up. Is this a lucky coincidence, or does she have some sort of divine protection against the rifts? She is a Triforce holder, but that's not the reason why, since the rift has no problem swallowing up Link. And as previously mentioned, the Japanese website shows her father, the king, seemingly saving her from an incoming rift. So she's likely just as vulnerable to the rifts as anyone else. Well, until she meets Tri, who seems to be able to allow her safe passage through them. We don't see any real evidence of this yet, but it would be a nice mechanic if Zelda was somehow able to patch up these various rifts to restore the map back to normal order. Maybe by clearing a dungeon in each region, it will destroy the evil corrupting it and sew up the rifts in that section of the map. The newly cleared areas might then hold secrets, treasures, or even new passageways Zelda can safely traverse. This would provide a huge incentive to re-explore certain areas of the map once the main questline in that region is completed. Speaking of quests, trailer 2 showed us that Echoes of Wisdom will be the first game in the top-down series to have a cataloged quest system with main story and side objectives. This says a lot about what we can expect from the game's depth, and is a very welcome addition, encouraging players to spend more time in this highly interactive world. From what we've seen so far of Echoes of Wisdom's overworlds, it doesn't take long to realize that this is actually a map heavily inspired by A Link to the Past. The cave on the island southeast of the castle is identical to the cave where A Link to the Past's Fairy Queen upgrades carry capacity. That's also the same spot the Ice Palace is in the Dark World. This lineup of boulders to the east of the castle is exactly the same, and while it's tough to spot at first glance, we can see what looks like the Hyrulean cemetery just behind the castle as well. We can see what clearly resembles the Eastern Palace on the cliffs directly to the right of the castle, and unless its purpose has been completely changed, we can only assume that we'll be revisiting some of the classic dungeons from A Link to the Past. We've only seen the Eastern Palace so far, so it's still unknown if we'll be returning to any of A Link to the Past's other dungeons as well. This dungeon with the stone floor we see more of in trailer 2 could be the inside of the new Eastern Palace, due to some visual similarities. If this is the case, then we've likely already seen the boss of the Eastern Palace too, which is this large stone golem present in both trailers. Despite the similarities, Echoes of Wisdom's map isn't totally the same as A Link to the Past's. For example, the area we now know as Elden Volcano to the northwest of the castle is simply not there in A Link to the Past. The new Fair and Wetlands area is obviously not present in A Link to the Past either. If we take a look north of the castle where Death Mountain is found in A Link to the Past, we notice that Echoes of Wisdom now features some snow-covered peaks. We haven't yet seen any clips of Zelda exploring a snowy region, but we can only assume that these upper cliffs will be part of a new Breath of the Wild inspired Hebra region, a first time that appears in the top-down games. If these snowy cliffs are indeed Hebra, it's not a stretch to imagine that this area could be home to a population of Rito, a race of characters never before seen on the top-down side either. We already have Goron, Gerudo, and Zora, so it only makes sense to include all 4 of the main races that inhabit the map in Breath of the Wild. During bits of the Ganon fight in Trailer 1, we see Link showing off a Rock's Feather style jump. He first jumps out of the way of Ganon's incoming spear attack, and he even jumps into the air to hit Ganon with a charged spin attack. Is the jumping simply for dramatic effect in this boss fight cutscene? Or, since we now know that Link is going to be playable in some form, is a jump now part of his moveset? Maybe he just has Rock's Feather equipped, allowing him to jump? We've yet to see any confirmed footage of Link gameplay, so right now it's unclear if there will be any changes to how he controls. We'll just have to wait and see. We don't know why Link is wearing a hood at the beginning of the game, but it might be that the hood is simply a disguise, since he's infiltrating Ganon's lair to rescue Zelda. It's reminiscent of the Hylian hood from Breath of the Wild, and is likely meant to help Link blend in or hide his identity. As Link is falling into the rift, we can actually see that his hood is cast off to the side. We see Zelda with the same exact hood later on, meaning she likely picks it up before her escape and wears it during some of her quest. As a small side note, I think the Hylian hood specifically being blue and such a prominent part of Zelda's design could be yet another reference honoring Breath of the Wild. It looks very much like the armor piece from that game, and blue is of course one of its major colors. Symbolically, I could see this representing Echoes of Wisdom being the first new top-down Zelda game wholly developed after the release of Breath of the Wild. And of course, its seemingly more open nature, made possible by Zelda's new Echo and Bind abilities. Zelda's new Bind ability was one of the major reveals in Trailer 2. When an object is subject to bind, it will move as Zelda moves, meaning we can essentially reposition any movable object on the overworld. Bind is activated with the X button, and it can be used on any of Zelda's echoes as well. While Bind allows for the object to mimic Zelda's movement, its sister ability, Reverse Bond, makes it so Zelda follows the object's movement instead, the exact opposite. When Zelda uses Bind on an object, pressing R will activate Reverse Bond. We can see Zelda using this to hitch a ride over a gap using a moving platform, and to scale some cliffs with the help of this new Black Spider Echo. In addition to the Black Spider, Trailer 2 introduces several new creature echoes, such as the Keese, Seagull, Armadillo, and this mole-like creature that burrows in a hole underground. The Japanese website also shows a wide variety of creature echoes not seen in the trailer. For example, a Spark, a Bombfish, a Beamos, and this windy tornado character that might be the tornado ghost that this Gerudo is referring to in this Trailer 2 dialogue. My translating app reads the text next to it as simply Wind Monster. And finally, a video on the Japanese site also shows Zelda flying on this large pink moth-like creature, similar to how she might use the Keese Echo. The website shows off a few more new item echoes as well. We can get a good look at some of them, like the torch and the teddy bear in this slider. The site also gives some examples of creative use cases for certain echoes, and how problems can be solved in different ways using them. For example, this video shows both the water block and the wind blower from Trailer 1 being used to extinguish flames when Zelda's clothes catch on fire. There are more videos from the website showing off the game's creative possibilities. For example, in one video, Zelda uses the meat echo to lure these snakes out of the tall grass. Then, when they're distracted, she uses a spiky pea hat to destroy them. And then, in another video in this side-by-side comparison, Zelda uses this candle enemy echo to sneakily light both ends of the grass on fire, which also destroys the snakes. One of these videos also gives us a brief glimpse of a few echoes we haven't seen yet via the quick select menu. One is that new moth-like creature, while we see a few others as well, like this large-billed bird and even a darknut. This final one on the right, I can't really make out, but here's the image. We also get some clips of Zelda taking on a shark enemy while swimming in the water. In one video, she uses a spark echo to shock the shark in place, while in the other, she she uses the anglerfish echo to engage in water-based combat. Clearly, the goal here is to show off that there will be many different ways to solve similar problems, taking a page from the book of the latest 3D Zelda games, those being Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The Echoes of Wisdom homepage shows us some cool new uses of the shrub echo as well, including this video where Zelda stacks two shrubs on top of one another and then uses the torch echo to burn them, which in turn burns away the spiderweb blocking this alcove in the wall above. We see a similar thing with the pod echo, where Zelda uses it to distract a guard during a stealth section, to keep steady from wind gusts while traversing a narrow cliff, and to cross a dangerous volcanic floor in the Elden region. It's crazy to see the varied usage of even one single echo in this game. Inside the rifts that Ganon creates might be where we capture some of the more unconventional echoes, like the water block. While we've seen several new echoes since the game's reveal, we've only seen this one that appears to be collected inside of a rift. Bringing these echoes back to normal Hyrule creates some really unique scenarios, since you won't see something like a water block just lying around in the regular world. We've all seen Zelda using the water block to swim upwards up a cliffside in Trailer 1, but the Japanese website shows us some even more creative applications, like combining a stack of water block echoes with a bed, causing it to float upward and create a functional elevator. Trailer 1 first introduced us to some new HUD elements, like the minimap in the lower right, but another HUD element not present in the Link's Awakening remake is this Tears of the Kingdom style 4-button directional selector in the upper left. What's strange though is that even after all of the revelations from Trailer 2, we only ever see the tri-rod being selectable here. We can only assume that pressing right on the D-pad will open up the quick select menu for the various echoes. But will there be functionality mapped to the other directions? Maybe there's even more to Zelda's kit than even the tri-rod allows. The echoes menu is similar to the ones we see in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, when we select through materials, zonai devices, and things of that nature. Just like in that game, there is a sort feature to make combing through these menus easier. In this clip, we see that the menu is currently sorted by last used, but there are 4 other options for sorting. My educated guess for what these sort options might be? I'm thinking most used, alphabetical, creature echoes, and some starred favorites. Also on the echoes menu, we see an option for notebook. My theory is that this is most likely a simple informational page about each echo. The page might have a brief bio for the echo, maybe the location where Zelda captured it, and possibly a video showing off some of its most common uses. On the inventory screen, we can see tabs for heart pieces, items, smoothies, a mechanic further expanded on in Trailer 2, accessories, quests, and settings. The Business Scrub Smoothie Shop is another bit of Breath of the Wild influence in Echoes of Wisdom. Here, Zelda can mix together various items and resources into smoothies that offer a wide variety of effects. According to the Japanese website, smoothies can be used to increase physical strength, heat tolerance, and to swim faster, among other things. We can find many potential smoothie ingredients throughout Trailer 2. Just going off of this smoothie menu here, we can spot these seahorses, which are purchasable from a River Zora shop in Jabul Waters, grapes, which may or may not come from this purple-colored fruit in the Faron region, this stone that's for sale in the Goron shop, and both of these fire-resistant chili cactus and spicy peppers, both sold in a shop in Gerudo Desert. The locations of these last 3 aren't shown in any of the trailers, but they are seen if you look carefully at some of the screenshots from the Japanese website. Throughout Trailer 2, we can see other items that might end up being smoothie ingredients as well. For example, a brief moment in the Faron wetlands reveals what appears to be a chill shroom. This may be harvestable and used as an ingredient for heat-resistant smoothies. In Trailer 1, we noticed some special stones scattered across Hyrule. We knew they were special since they were highlighted as landmarks on the minimap. Trailer 2 has now introduced them to us as waypoints. We can see that they glow when activated and become fast travel points we can warp to and from via the map screen. And speaking of the map screen, I think it's worth noting that from the little bit we see of it, it seems pretty large, maybe the largest to date in the top-down side of the Zelda series. Here we see what looks like somewhere in the southwest of the map. Typically, a Zelda game's desert region is in the southwest, like in A Link to the Past and Breath of the Wild. The cactus iconography on the unexplored side to the west seems to suggest that this is where Gerudo Desert begins. In Jabul waters, we see an underwater doorway with the markings of the goddess Nehru above it. This could mean that Zelda will have some way to swim down there and enter this doorway. We see some underwater scenes, but only from this Link's Awakening style side-scrolling perspective. Will Zelda be able to dive down under the water freely, or will there be an item like the iron boots that will let her sink to the bottom of lakes and rivers? We also briefly see a chest on the bottom of Jabul waters too, lending even more credence to this theory. Purchased in Jabul waters River Zora shop is an accessory called Zora's Flippers, which increase swim speed when equipped. We get a look at this and some other accessories on the equipment screen. We see the Zora scale, which allows for Zelda to breathe underwater longer, the frog ring, which allows for a higher jump. We also get the heart pin, which increases recovery heart drops, and this flower, which is a bit of a mystery at the moment. The icon features a pink butterfly and the same bag icon as the heart pin. This could mean it increases the frequency of butterflies appearing. Interestingly enough, we do see butterflies appearing in many places throughout the trailer. We just have no idea what their purpose might be in-game. Perhaps they're just another smoothie ingredient. This same equipment screen is also used to change Zelda's clothing. For example, we see here the hooded outfit we saw throughout trailer 1, then her more traditional Hylian princess garb, as well as the typical outfit of a Gerudo Vi. Just like accessories, some of Zelda's outfits will in turn enhance her abilities. In trailer 2, we get a closer look at the cliffs near Eldin Volcano. We see rocky cliff sides that appear to be climbable in all directions. We don't actually see Zelda climbing, but I think it's safe to assume we'll be able to scale certain cliff sides without the help of an Echo. Just watch out for the mini Moldorm and Torchslug enemies that might be patrolling these walls. Trailer 2 also gives us a first glimpse at Kakariko Village. We learn that Kakariko is nestled at the foot of the volcano, and we get a look at a few new houses plus a shop building. We also meet two Goron characters, our first time seeing them in this art style. In Echoes of Wisdom, the new Faron Wetlands region is inhabited by Deku Scrubs, a race that originated in the Nintendo 64 Zelda games and is not often used in the newer Zelda titles. The voiceover in trailer 2 tells us that the Deku Scrubs have a voracious sweet tooth, no doubt hinting at one part of this region's main story quest. In another first, we get a look at horseback gameplay, bringing this classic 3D Zelda element over to the top-down side of the series. On horseback, Zelda can trample smaller, weaker enemies simply by riding over them. The horse can also hop over short cliffs and fences, plus its faster movement speed will surely make it useful for traversing the vast plains of Hyrule. We learn that we can call horses by using the Carrot Echo. In the scene where this is demonstrated, we can see a white horse come to Zelda's aid instead of the brown horse we see earlier on. This suggests that the Carrot Echo won't call the same horse every time, or that the game features some sort of horse customization feature. Visiting the Japanese website homepage shows us an extended version of the game's key art. This shows one of the Zelda wanted posters we see throughout the trailer, and this mysterious parachuting man in the upper left corner. In one section of the Japanese site, we can see models for a few of the major characters in a slider. This is where we learned about Robbie, Impa, and Minister Sadari, and it also shows the King of Hyrule, Zelda's father, and General Ugi of the Castle Guard, which is likely not his final name in English. And last but certainly not least, some video footage from the Japanese website appears to show a targeting system like in the 3D Zelda games. We can see it in action here when Zelda is fighting the shark while swimming, while she uses a Seagull Echo to take on a flying crow, and when she uses Bind to stop an attacking Wolfos in its tracks, with a few spear-throwing Moblin Echoes to take it out. The targeting is indicated by these red markers, and it's likely initiated by a simple button press. Just like horseback travel, it's exciting to see this 3D Zelda staple make its way over to the top-down side of the series. And there you have it, 50 of the best new Echoes of Wisdom theories and secrets, using all the resources currently at our disposal. This was a bombardment of info that came outside of a direct, so really out of nowhere. Please let me know in the comments down below if I missed anything important, because this was a lot to take in. As someone who has wanted a new top-down Zelda for a really long time, like I'm sure many of you did, I am dumbfounded at what we're getting here, and just how amazing it looks with all the new abilities and creative elements. I really thought the Echoes was going to be it, as that's such a deep and detailed system already. So this trailer revealing Bind and Reverse Bond really blew me away. We're truly lucky that the game is coming so soon, and if you're as excited as I am, then be sure to leave a like, comment, or even subscribe. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Absolutely cannot wait for this new Zelda game.